We at Glendale Community College are proud of our connections to the Community College League of California and join in celebrating 30 years. I'm David Vire and was the founding CEO of the league in 1990.
I am Ann Ransford and have served as a member of the CCCT board of the league and as the CCCT president and as a member of the league board.
From our vantage points of state and local community college leadership, we have observed the value of the league in providing local control and system advocacy, local elected board and CEO leadership development, and district services that save our district's money.
Are we biased due to our involvement? Of course, yes.
And do we have the evidence to back up our claim? An emphatic yes. Happy birthday, Community College League of California, and here's to a strong future.
The success of our local community colleges and service to our communities depends on it.
Happy 30th birthday, League.
Good morning, everyone. I am Pam Luster, the first Vice Chair and Treasurer of the League Board of Directors, President of the CEO CCC Board, and President at San Diego Mesa College. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this session of the League's 2020 Annual Convention. Throughout this conference, business partners and affiliate organizations that our college work with to support our students will sponsor our sessions. This general session is sponsored by League Associate Partners PPL, KNN Public Finance, Ex Libris, and Keenan and Associates. PPL has sustained a leadership position in providing comprehensive executive personnel services for California's community colleges for over 30 years. KNN Public Finance has provided financial advisory services to California educational entities to fund their capital facilities and cash flow needs since 1982. Ex Libris provides technology solutions that enable colleges to increase student engagement and retention, reducing the cost of student educational materials, and improve library operations. Ex Libris works with nearly 5,000 institutions worldwide, including California's community colleges, CSUs, and UCs. Keenan and Associates has been providing innovative insurance and financial solutions for schools, public agencies, and healthcare organizations since 1972. We are the experts you can rely on when it comes to risk management, employee benefits, claims services, and technology. Thank you, League Associate Partners, for your support. We now turn to one of the most inspiring moments at each convention. Since 1964, we have honored distinguished alumni at our general sessions. The award is given to those who, through their start in a California community college, have achieved much and have gone on to make significant contributions to their communities. At this time, I'd like to introduce William A. Young, President and founder of the Young Center for Academic and Cultural Enrichment. William A. Young has been an actor since age 13 and now has over 100 starring roles in television, stage, and film productions. He recently starred in the medical drama Code Black as Dr. Guthrie. William is the founder and president of the nonprofit, the Young Center for Academic and Cultural Enrichment, which serves the needs of low to moderate income households in underserved communities in California. Mr. Young attended El Camino College from 1975 to 1977 and earned an associate degree in speech communication. He transferred to USC on a full scholarship where he was twice ranked the #1 college speaker in the nation. Young earned a bachelor's degree in rhetoric and debate, then continued his education at CSU Los Angeles, where he earned a master's degree in sociolinguistics. He is the recipient of the NAACP Outstanding Social Achievement Award and was deemed a Goodwill Ambassador by former US President Bill Clinton, among other awards. Young is respected in the arts and entertainment community for his professional accomplishments and his passion for education. As a former co-chair of the Directors Guild of America's African American Steering Committee, he helped negotiate the landmark 2000 Network Agreement to help diversify the ranks of actors, writers, directors, and producers in Hollywood. He has also inspired countless lives and created opportunities for hundreds of underserved youth to gain acceptance at colleges and universities nationwide through his award-winning nonprofit, the Young Center for Academic and Cultural Enrichment. Now we'll watch a recorded message from Mr. Young.
Hi, everyone. This is William Allen Young. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Board of Directors for the Community College League of California for bestowing upon me this incredible honor this evening. To be the recipient of the 2020 California Community College Distinguished Alumni Award is really a true honor, and I don't take it lightly. Because when I look back on those years of my life, those 2 years I spent at El Camino College in Torrance, California, those were some of the most formative years of my life. When I came to El Camino, I was this young kid from South Central LA, grew up right in the heart of Watts, had this incredible passion, a head full of dreams, and not a clue as to how to get to where I wanted to go. I needed mentoring. I needed somebody who could put their hands on me and mold me into what I was going to become. Those men and women were the faculty members, the administrators, the counselors in the community college system. People like my counselor, Carolyn Khalil, my drama teachers, Dr. Burnett Ferguson, Dr. Pete Kenderson, one of my great teachers, Dr. Jane Hardister in music. I remember them as if it was yesterday. Because for me, you don't forget the bridge that carried you across. They helped to mold me and prepare me to transition into the next phase of my life. I received my associate's degree, but then I went on to the University of Southern California, my dream school. But it was those 2 years at El Camino College that made that all possible. Not only that, I went on to have a successful career, but I attribute all of it to those formative years at El Camino College. Those 2 years when I actually came to understand that it was actually possible. That's what I think about when I think about my years in the community college system. So to be recognized as a distinguished alumnus of that system means everything to me. Finally, I'd like to thank Ms. Cynthia Mosqueda, who was an incredible counselor at El Camino College, who recommended me for this award. I'd also like to thank my incredible wife, the educator counselor Helen Young, who still works in the community college system. And I'd like to thank all the administrators, faculty members, and counselors who continue to work in the community college system to transform the lives of young people like me. Thank you again, members of the Board of Directors. I will honor this award and carry it in the name of all of those who are the great heroes and sheroes in the community college system. Thank you.
Congratulations to our distinguished alumnus, William A. Young, alum from El Camino College. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our State Chancellor, Eloy Ortiz Oakley. The California Community College Board of Governors appointed Eloy Oakley as Chancellor for the California Community Colleges on December the 19th, 2016. Chancellor Oakley is best known throughout California and the nation for implementing innovative programs and policies that help students succeed in college. Oakley strongly believes that California's emerging economies demand a workforce with quality credentials, and that the state's 117 community colleges play a pivotal role in moving California forward. Oakley has been recognized for his leadership in several ways. In 2014, he received the James Irvine Foundation Leadership Award, and Governor Brown appointed him to the California Board of Regents. In 2016, President Obama recognized Oakley as a White House champion of change for his work promoting and supporting the National College Promise movement. A community college success story himself, Oakley attended Golden West College after serving 4 years in the U.S. Army. After Golden West, he transferred to the University of California, Irvine, where he received his degrees of Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Analysis and Design and a Master of Business Administration. Welcome, Chancellor Oakley, to our convention.
All right. Well, thank you, Pam. Thank you for that welcome. And it's a pleasure to be with everyone this morning and again here at the League Conference. Let me begin with a set of thank yous. First of all, I want to thank Larry Gildizio and his entire team at the Community College League of California for once again bringing us together, even in this virtual environment. It's always a great opportunity to bring all the wonderful people in our system together to celebrate as a family at the CCLC annual convention. So even though we are in this virtual environment, it's still great to be able to gather with all of you, to reconnect, to celebrate our successes, and to certainly commiserate over the craziness that 2020 has been and continues to be. We still have a little ways to go. So before I get started, let me just give a few more thank yous, and I'd like to begin with a video. But before that, I do want to recognize and thank the members of the Board of Governors who are with us today. We had a meeting earlier this week, and if you watch the Board of Governors meetings, you know that every single individual on the board is extremely invested in the California community colleges and completely dedicated to the students of the California community colleges. I want to recognize and congratulate the new leadership of the Board of Governors, President-elect Pamela Haynes and Vice President-elect Amy Costa. Their leadership is going to be tremendous for the upcoming year. And I have to take a moment to recognize the amazing leadership that these two individuals bring, and these individuals who also happen to be women. This is an incredible time for us in the California community colleges, and we're so proud of the incoming leadership of the Board of Governors. So with that, let's get started with a video that will set the context of what this year has meant, and will set some context for my remarks. So let's go ahead and roll the video. This crisis has really exposed the challenges we face as a state and a nation. Everything from access to good public health, to goods and services, internet connection. But it's really exposed some of the equity challenges that we knew already that our students face. You stepped up to help one another during these hard times, and many of you have answered the call and joined the front lines in response to COVID-19. Our community colleges have been right there in just about every community up and down the state, working side by side, not only to support the response in terms of the nurses, the EMTs, the firefighters, but also opening up the doors of their campuses.
During this time, we must double our commitment to equity, or communities of color and low-income Californians will fall even further behind. And it's about closing that gap. It's about dealing with the systemic issues that have been sort of ignored or certainly allowed to happen over time, and say, now let's use this opportunity to get some real change.
To those students who are facing hardships and maybe questioning whether or not they want to continue their education, I want you to know that you're going to overcome these challenges and that we're here to help you.
The support structure is amazing. My faculty reaching out to me, seeing if I'm okay. Access to community colleges alone is already a beacon of hope in California, because community colleges have the capacity to get so many students and so many people low-cost degrees. The life lessons and kind of the life skills that you were taught at community colleges will translate into the workforce.
I really want to applaud the community college for continuing the conversation. It is so easy to say, let's set this aside. It's important, but we got to deal with the emergency. But we can't forget the path that we are treading on that says we need to address these inequalities. The inconsistencies and the inequalities don't go away because there's a pandemic. History tells us that there is some institutionalized racism and practices that have been prevalent in our system for a long time. It is because that we have been denied equal access to a system that's probably most important, and that's education, which has always been the pathway to success.
The nationwide protests demanding justice for black men and women who have lost their lives to police violence remind us we face not one, but many crises made worse by deeply rooted racism. It's our shared responsibility to say Black Lives Matter through our actions and to put the will behind better serving Black and African American students. My office and the college leadership are finding ways that we can support real change at every level, from access to culture and our curriculum. Everyone has jumped in, and that's what makes me so proud of the California Community Colleges. We are really part of every community, and our faculty, our staff, and our students do everything possible to support their community in times of crisis.
I applaud the community colleges again in the midst of this pandemic to stay the course, to keep it top and front, and then we'll get through it and we'll be better on the other side.
All right. So that video sets the stage for my comments. And, you know, as I think back a year ago, this annual conference was held in Riverside. Seems like a million years ago. At that time, we packed into big ballrooms. We mingled with friends. We talked to colleagues in the lobbies, in the hallways, and in the buffet lines. Do you all remember what the buffet lines were like? We couldn't wait to get at that food. There were no keynote addresses on how to convert nearly all of our instruction to remote or online education. There were no breakout sessions discussing how to use 3D printers from our advanced manufacturing programs to produce the face shields to supply local hospitals that urgently needed PPE. We weren't even thinking about anything remotely associated with that. We weren't thinking about how to keep food pantries going in the middle of a pandemic and economic freefall while our campuses were shuttered. And it would have been inconceivable to discuss how colleges should prepare to send ventilators from their respiratory therapy programs to the state's emergency management system. Yet, all this came to pass. We did it all. You did it all, and so much more. So I'm very proud, extremely proud of what you all did in the midst of this crisis. As pandemic and fear spread throughout our state, our faculty, our staff, and our students did what they always do in a crisis: help their communities and help one another respond to disaster and then lead us toward recovery. In addition to the response to this once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, there came along an overdue reckoning, a reckoning with racism that shook our country to the core. One of the speakers in the film we just watched put it well. It would have been easy, she said, for us to use this pandemic as an excuse to pull back on our commitment to ending racial disparities in our colleges. But that misunderstands the nature of this crisis. The events of the past 8 months have made clearly visible disparities, clear disparities that our Black and African American, Latinx, Asian, and Pacific Islander communities have encountered for generations. And it is why we developed the call to action on urgent priorities that our students and our state are looking to us, the California Community Colleges, to implement with fidelity. And let me pause for a second, because I've heard from several folks, not only in the system, from outside the system, you know, why are we just talking about Black and African American students? Why are we just talking about systemic racism? Why aren't we talking about the myriad of other demographic groups that continue to feel a sense of disenfranchisement. All that is true. But one thing that was laid bare in 2020 was that we have left behind a group of individuals in this country for centuries, specifically Black Americans. We as a community, we as a system, we as people, regardless of our backgrounds, cannot be whole until we make whole the Black and African American community. So that is why we're putting a clear focus on this issue of systemic racism. To be clear, we are all of us in our system, in our communities, are called to action by this moment. And I emphasize the word action. We are called to make a difference. Today, I'm going to focus on why we need to take these steps. I'm going to ask for your renewed support, and I'm going to make sure you know that we have your back, because these are going to be difficult conversations. But the Chancellor's Office and the Board of Governors is fully supportive and will continue to be at your back. In a normal year, my keynote address today might focus on the significant achievements all of you have made possible, our system reforms or our budget priorities. I would be highlighting how over the past 2 years, our colleges have increased the number of students who earn college credentials by 20%, meeting one of the 6 goals in the Vision for Success well ahead of schedule. I would be talking about how we are making progress on goals on transfer and narrowing achievement gaps among students of color and increasing the number of students who are getting jobs, good jobs in their field of study. Or I'd be talking about how we abandoned a placement system that failed students by inaccurately measuring their potential, replacing it with one that is leading to a more equitable access to and students and success in transfer level English and math courses. Each of these achievements, all of these improvements are things that we should be deeply proud of. I know I'm deeply proud of all of you for these achievements. But we should not be satisfied, not in this moment in time. This moment calls for us as leaders to do something more that makes a meaningful difference to this generation of students that has been dealing with so much pressure from these multiple pandemics, economic crisis, health crisis, racial reckoning. This generation of students deserves our support. This moment calls on us to take action commensurate with the moment we have entered into. We must use our positions of privilege, our influence and power to address racial injustice with the urgency our students expect of us. We must seize the opportunities that President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will provide in answering the national mandate to address racism, finally. As you well know, our students are facing huge challenges at this time and impacting their ability to attend community college, as we are seeing with enrollment declines this fall. 1 in 5 students said that they have been furloughed or laid off during the pandemic, and half report their incomes are lower, much lower. 57% of students are dealing with basic needs challenges, including food and housing insecurity and homelessness. More than 4 in 10 students say they need to care for family members while going to school. This is who our students are. And for students of color, these numbers are even higher, reflecting the disproportionate impact that COVID-19 has had on their communities and a legacy of exclusion from opportunities to build wealth or access education and adequate health care. We are extremely thankful to the J. Pritzker Foundation's commitment of $100 million over the next 20 years to provide students in our most underserved areas emergency grants and scholarships. But even that generous gift will not cover the need that exists. And as we get ready to work with a new administration in Washington, one that actually understands and values public education and lifts up community colleges, we must work together for an equitable economic recovery. Not a recovery that favors the wealthy and leaves the most vulnerable students behind, but one that lifts everyone. We have a chance to leap forward and to build a California community college system that is truly more just and equitable. The Board of Governors and our Chancellor's Office is fully behind this work, and we stand ready to support you in making it a reality, because it is you that is making this a reality. The call to action is about taking steps to make our system look more like the population we serve. It's about examining our role in training California law enforcement and examining the role of policing on campus. It's about working to ensure that we have plans to advance equity at every campus. For those of you who want to make our system stronger, the call is about supporting you. Many of you who have been in this system, many faculty and staff of color who have been waiting for this moment. This moment is yours, and we stand ready to support you. We recognize and celebrate the fact that 73% of our students identify with one or more ethnic groups, meaning we serve the most diverse student population in all of higher education. That is a point of pride. As our students have become increasingly diverse, our workforce hasn't kept pace. The evidence is clear that students do better when they see someone who looks like them and can relate to their life experiences in the ranks of our faculty and of our staff. But consider this. Today, an African-American student who enrolls at random in just one course in our system stands a 6% chance of being taught by someone of the same ethnicity. Think about that. For that student to be reasonably sure of getting an African-American faculty member, he or she would need to enroll in 49 courses. That's something we need to correct. And at a handful of our colleges, there is still zero chance of enrolling in a class taught by an African-American instructor. Think about that. Many of you are already answering the call by working to implement diversity, equity, and inclusion integration plans, which have been approved by the Board of Governors on an accelerated timeline. We recognize that nearly all aspects of hiring need to be examined and improved, from the way that vacancy announcements are handled, how applications are screened, who sits on interview committees, and we're working on updating minimum qualifications. When we ask candidates if they have experience working with diverse populations, we need to hear how they did and what the results were and what they would do even better. It's not enough to just check a box. We need candidates committed to bringing skills or tools to support your campus culture and your students. And this relates to every single hire, not just faculty. We need to ensure that effective student participation is there and that we provide training on implicit bias and cultural competency as applied to hiring. We must work to complete all of this within 2 years. It's urgent that we do. If that timeline seems ambitious, consider that more than 2 decades ago, legislation was passed and signed by a Republican governor that called on the California community colleges to have a workforce that mirrors the composition of the state by 2005. Clearly, we haven't met that goal. Leaders on several campuses are taking action and holding open dialogues to address campus climate. They're auditing classroom climate, creating plans to address the climate, and to implement specific anti-racism curriculum. We're seeing resources to implement these priorities, a fact that you can see in our system budget requests for next year. We've told the Department of Finance that improving faculty and staff diversity is vital to ensuring students can identify with faculty and staff that help them succeed. We've asked for $77 million in the next budget to help with faculty and staff diversity and with equity and inclusion work, including advancing anti-racism in curriculum. Yes, this work would have been easier if Proposition 16 would have passed, but we remain committed to doing all we can, and we will move forward with existing law. Remember, our efforts began well before Proposition 16 and will continue well after this election cycle. We are also called to ask, how do we affect police culture reform through our training programs? Who are our academy leaders who can help us lead this effort, and who do we need to partner with? We are taking a close look at law enforcement training that our colleges provide, and also consider how we police on our own campuses. It's important to understand how effective training and education programs are addressing cultural differences and racial biases. I believe that the majority of law enforcement are very much concerned about the communities that they serve. But we have an opportunity to do more and to greatly influence the education of law enforcement in our state through 19 of the 41 basic police academies that our colleges operate, and the in-service training our colleges offer to law enforcement. We can take this moment to make real change. Too often, police academy at our community colleges exists somewhat apart from the rest of the campus community, tucked away on one end of the campus and affiliated with city or county police jurisdictions. We see them in uniform doing their training, but perhaps don't take the time to really understand what they're doing and what their training involves. This year, the Chancellor's Office started an online forum in partnership with the Statewide Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, otherwise known as POST. We've introduced the topic of evidence-based policing, a research-based approach that increases accountability and transparency of police training and practices. We as college leaders need to educate ourselves about this and to work with faculty and law enforcement partners to more widely adopt evidence-based policing approaches and take action that could improve policing in communities of color throughout California. Because the reality is that we are training law enforcement officers who go out to work in police agencies up and down our state, where officer-involved shootings are not rare, and in some cases, seemingly commonplace. On June 18th of this year, one of our own students, Andres Guardado, who attended Los Angeles Trade Tech, was shot and killed by a Los Angeles County Sheriff deputy. Since that deadly encounter, there have been 56 officer-involved shootings in California, according to a database maintained by the Washington Post. That's about 3 a week since this young man's killing. Did all of these encounters need to involve the discharge of a weapon by police? I don't know the answer to that, but it is a question that we must ask. So yes, we have a responsibility to closely examine the training that occurs in our programs and work with our law enforcement partners to better prepare officers to interact with the communities that they serve. And that is why we are partnering with POST and digging into these issues as we work toward reviewing our police training programs, as well as changes that will improve our communities. We know that the officers and the leaders at POST feel the same way we do. We honor the work of our law enforcement officers, and through this partnership with POST, the Chancellor's Office now has a voice on the advisory committee to the POST Commission. We also need to look inside our own police and security departments, the contracted services that we have with other police agencies, to determine if they have the proper training, and to even rethink the role of policing on our college campuses. I want to take a moment to thank the many districts who have already begun this work, in particular, most recently, the Los Angeles Community College District, who has taken a hard look at their contract with the LA County Sheriffs. These are the kinds of questions we're asking every board of trustees to ask. We can talk about the call to action all day long, but before we can even get to the ultimate positive change we envision, it all starts with actions in the classroom. We have to create the culture that values every single individual who comes into our campuses, not to treat them as individuals who are lucky to be there or need to be fixed. You as leaders are the ones who are setting the expectation that equity needs to be at the center of everything that we do. This involves how we look at data, how you build the student voice in your structure, and that student voice is critical on every single one of our campuses. We need to intentionally include their voice. And this also means the district boards need to review and update their equity plans with urgency. It also means nudging a CEO who needs it, or on the flip side, making sure that boards of trustees have his or her back when interest groups want to invest in other areas of the campus or drift away from the action toward meeting these goals. Administrators know they are essential voices for improving diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to make sure that they take hold of the tools that they have to drive in this direction. And we cannot hide from the honest and sometimes difficult conversations any longer. Collegiality is a hugely important tradition in our system and part of our infrastructure. It's part of our DNA, but it cannot be the excuse as to why we don't raise our hands and speak up. In this California Community College family, we have to care enough about each other to confront systemic and implicit racism wherever we find it, and have the confidence to know that we will be stronger for it. So let's not lose this moment. Let's give our students the same urgency that they're living their lives with right now and take action. Everyone needs a fair shot. So let's make that happen. And finally, to my colleagues who are either recently elected trustees or re-elected trustees, your role is so incredibly important here. You set the culture, you set the tone. And I know many of you have your own challenges locally, but we have to support this work. We have to support the leaders on your campuses that do this work, because again, this moment calls on us to take this action. Thank you all for giving me the time to be with you. I am so incredibly proud of everything that you've done. Your story has been amazing in 2020. We have faced huge challenges, and I want to thank everyone who's made this year, as difficult as it has been, a successful year, and we need to continue to push forward. So I want to now shift to talking about our students. Last year we had the opportunity to hear from some of our students on a student panel, and this year we tried to create the same opportunity, because nothing I say, nothing I do here can replace the voice of our students. So we have a great panel of students to allow me to finish off this conversation in a really meaningful way. Let me introduce them now. We have Kevin Quincy Jones, straight out of Compton College, Sarah Tran from Skylight College, Catherine Esquire from Delta College, and Felicia Oscar from number 116, Madera College. So if we can invite them in now, I want to begin by asking them a set of questions and letting us hear from them, their stories about how they're working through the challenges that they face. So we've got about 20 minutes or so we'll try to get through this. And I ask the students, as we go through the questions, take about 2 minutes and tell us your thoughts about how you're working through the challenges that I'm going to describe. So my first question is going to be to tell us your story and your background about how and why you are here in college at one of our community colleges. So let me go down the list. Let's begin with Kevin.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Oakley, for the invitation. Thank you, everyone. Today, we're on an elevator ride in this Zoom session, and I only have like 2 minutes to say what I'm going to say before I get off this elevator. So what could I possibly say to touch hearts and to inspire those of you who are in here? I think, as Dr. Oakley put it, I would say my story. So 27 years ago, I was called a speeding car with no driver by someone who I honor. those words I would discover much later were like a defibrillator. And I think that's where I would like to start because if I could somehow compare the work that community colleges, staff, educators, everybody in between does for students, it would be healthcare workers. It would be comparing community colleges and their team to healthcare workers. And it's that doctor with the defibrillator who puts those paddles on someone's chest to save their life. Well, those words that person said to me, Kevin, you are a speeding car with no driver, 27 years ago. Those words were the paddles of that defibrillator. And although those words hurt when they were first said, I needed them. I needed them because everything Dr. Oakley has said so far has refreshed my memory of what has happened to me over these past 44 years, actually. You would not know it by listening to my voice right now or looking at my face right now, but you would not know it. But I was on the verge of planning a murder, a couple of murders, because of something horrible that happened to my daughter. Some abuse, some sexual assault, some rape, all of those things that I learned of. And it took me down a mental journey that I had to get some help with. Yes, I did touch base with therapy through the community college system. I did touch base with community-based therapy. And I'm in a good place now. Who would have guessed that 2 years ago, in such a dejected state of thinking, of living, on top of everything I haven't even shared with you yet, that I was homeless for 5 years on the streets of Skid Row and other cities as well. That today, I'm preparing for graduation and transfer to the university of my choice. Who would have thought, at least not me, I didn't think it. I was the poster boy for bad choices coming up, bad decisions, failure to plan. And I reaped the rewards for those seeds that I planted. But it was the community college that was there, that was available for me as I was planning those horrible actions. I took a walk here in the city of Compton, took a walk to a local park, and there was a community college tent at the park. There was a young lady sitting at that tent, and she was recruiting for students in the park. There was some other events happening, but it was that young lady sitting at the table, just doing what she's supposed to do. And she had no idea that the gentleman that was walking up on her to take his mind off of other things would actually sign up and become a student in fall of 2019. So from fall of 2019 until now, I've been in school full time, no breaks, no nothing, just school. And the community college system has been amazing. I mean, Dr. Keith Curry, everybody on staff under him, they don't really know it. I don't know if I'm really sharing it properly. They don't really know that they've changed someone's life because of doing what they normally do. So if I could say something right before I get off this elevator, if I could say something to you, I think you're already doing what you should be doing because you helped me.
That's great, Kevin. Thank you for your story. And you are the poster child for why we get up every morning and come to work. Thank you for that. Catherine, let's go to you. Tell us a little bit about your story and how and why you're here.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for having me here. I actually did not intend on going to a community college in the first place. I had actually committed to a four-year university. I was going to go to San Francisco State right out of high school, and then, got through the summer, realized that I really couldn't make that decision financially. And so I had to completely drop out, change my plan. And I was like, I'm going to try and do this community college thing and see how it goes for a semester. I didn't know everything that would happen in that really summer span of 2 months. The weekend before I started college, my father actually passed away. And then not too long after, my mom lost her job. So I went into my first semester just completely hopeless, grieving the loss of a parent, trying to support my family, working a full-time job. And, I really questioned whether I should be in college. But the more and more I went through that first semester, the more and more I realized just how supported I was by the staff, by the faculty in my classes. I think a lot of the times college students are told if you need help, you kind of have to chase it. But when you're in my position, when you're first generation, you've never had someone who's gone to college. You don't really know how to do college or navigate the campus. It becomes really increasingly hard to ask for help. And so I think the great thing about my community college at San Joaquin Delta was just the fact that, I didn't have to reach out to people. People were kind of reaching out to me. My professors, if they didn't think I was doing too well, would pull me aside and say, hey, how can I help? What's going on? And so they really just became more of a family for me. And I honestly can say I just, found a home in the community college system. So much that I actually convinced my mother, who was out of school for years and years, to go back to school. And so she's actually at my community college as well with me now. And so, fast forward 2 years, I just graduated with my associates in political science, and I'm staying. This is my last year. I have one more certificate to finish up. But I couldn't ever have imagined myself in this position 2 years ago, feeling completely hopeless. So that's really where my story started and where I am now.
Thank you, Catherine. It's great to have you as part of the family. Sarah, tell us a little bit about your story.
Hello. Yes. So I attend Skyline College, and like Catherine, going to a community college was not a decision or something that I thought I would eventually be doing. I was very pressured by my family and some other friends to attend a four-year university, and there's still a lot of negative connotations with going to a community college. So at the time, that wasn't much of a decision for me. That wasn't much of an option for me. Unfortunately, I was not able to get into a four-year university, but the great thing is that I had a community college that was near my home, that was easily accessible, and I went to Skyline College. And the great thing that not many people realize about going to a community college is that there is so much support, a lot more than what I hear from people, my friends who do go to other four-year universities. And I feel like there's a lot that community college can offer that not many people really see. There's so much connotation that, oh, if you go to community college, you're not as smart, you're not as great. But there's obviously so many other things besides like academics or other things like that determine your ability to go to college, right? Obviously. So yeah, I'm very blessed to be able to go to, Skyline and be able to represent my school here today.
Well, you're representing them quite well. Thank you. Felicia, tell us a little bit about your story.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Felicia. This is my second year at Madera Community College. We are the newest college. I'm a criminology and psychology major. Like most of you guys, I'm first gen. So I don't have any prior college background or any school background for that matter. I grew up not knowing my biological father, and my biological mother abandoned me at 9 years old. So I kind of slept couch to couch, fending for myself at a young age. And it was about 12 years old that I met who I thought was the man of my dreams, because at 12 years old, I know everything, right? So at 12 years old, I moved in with him, and I became pregnant with my son by the time I was 15 years old. I was in my sophomore year of high school. I dropped out of school. I was a teen mom and a high school dropout. Over the years, the time passed, and I had 6 kids in total, and the relationship between me and the man of my dreams began to change. He became very abusive, both physically and emotionally. It took me about 18 years to get out of that relationship, but eventually I was able to leave with just me and my children and the clothes on our back. We took shelter here in Madera at the Martha Diaz home. And from there, I started working multiple jobs to try to get me and my children into a home of our own. It was probably about 2 months in that I was working that my youngest son had made a statement that literally broke my heart. He was getting an award at school. And when his brother asked him why he didn't tell me, he said, I didn't tell mom because she didn't come to any of our stuff anyway. She's always too busy working. It was really in that moment that I knew I needed one job that would be able to provide financial stability for me and my children, but also allow me to be involved in their lives. And I knew the only way to do that was going to be through education. So the following day, I made a very bold move and I quit both of my jobs and I enrolled in GED classes. I passed all of my tests within the first 2 months, and then I enrolled into community college. Being there has been such a great experience for me. They have been such a welcoming environment. I think it was Catherine who mentioned it was like being home. They have been such great supporters and motivators. And also, you know, there's been many contributors to my education besides just a faculty member. You know, the donations from foundations such as the J. Pritzker Foundation, they have not only invested in me, but my children and all the women I hope to help one day as a result of their generosity. So community college is a great place to start. It gives us the sense of belonging. We find ourselves there. It's kind of like second chances. You know, we don't really realize that community college is such a great experience. And the fact that it's so small, it is like a family. You know, you have access to all of your instructors and everybody. And I just wanted to say to all the college students out there, you know, my life hasn't always been easy, but I made the most with what I was given. And, you know, according to statistics, I shouldn't even be here today, but look at me, here I am. So let that be, you know, a motivation for every single one of you students out there who's kind of on the fence about, should I go back to school? Where should I go? Where's my life headed? Which direction is it? And, you know, we always have the second chance, the opportunity to turn the other way, you know, and education is a great start. Thank you guys for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Felicia. You know, I've now had a chance to hear your story about 3 times, and it makes it clear to me that when we talk about the urgency of the moment, we have to reflect the urgency of our work based on the urgency that you're living with. And so that's a clear message to us that we need to get moving. I know we're getting short on time, but I do want to take an opportunity, since we have you here and you have all the leaders of nearly every campus in the community colleges, trustees, presidents, faculty leaders. I'd like to ask you to tell us if there is one thing that our community colleges could do different that would have made it easier for you or made your life better while in community college or opened a door you needed open. Tell us what that is. This is something we need to hear from our students every day, but this is an excellent opportunity to hear from you all. So let's work our way backwards. Felicia, I'll start with you.
I would say, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. If you, I know for a lot of you guys, you're very busy and sometimes you don't have all the time to associate with students or to kind of communicate with them, but take every opportunity available because it lets us know that we're important and it shows us that we're valued. And that could be the change in a student wanting to continue their education or wanting to stop.
Great advice. Sarah, what do you think?
Hi. I feel like the spread of opportunities should be more widespread. Some of the opportunities and programs and organizations that I've been blessed to be part of were given to me by like other people. People have told it to me. So it wasn't like a lot of that information is given out to everyone. And I feel like if it were to be given out to everyone, it would give a lot of people a lot more opportunities. Rather than just having that information be told to me, or I just happen to see a flyer at school and stuff like that.
No, that's great advice. We always need to do a much better job making sure every student has the information that they need. Catherine, your thoughts?
I would say continuing to diversify faculty and staff. I think that's something that would have benefited me, particularly because my chosen career path is wanting to be an educator and actually coming back and serving as a community college professor. And so to be able to do that, I think it would have been very beneficial for me to be able to see someone from my background in that role. Something that you said that resonated with me is how rare it is that our students have a professor who is of their background and it got me thinking, and I'm like, wow, I went through my K through 12 education, all my community college education, and have never had a Latina educator in my entire life. And so that's something that really resonated with me and that I would like to see more of.
That's a great point. As I was reading through my speech, I asked myself the question, can I remember a faculty member of color that I saw in the community colleges, or for that matter, in the University of California? I could literally count on one hand the number of faculty of color that I went through in my college and university experience. So that's certainly something we need to hear and we need to act on. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
I'm stuck on this. I'm stuck on relationship building. I'm using this metaphor of the automobile today for some reason, and I see the community colleges as a fine automobile. There's only one problem: we haven't picked up everybody, and we don't have a set destination. If we figured out how to do some powerful relationship building by picking up all the passengers that would like to go, and then set our destination. I know the community colleges already have a destination. We're just not picking up passengers. I'm grateful that you picked me up. I'm in the vehicle and ready to go. So relationships, academic interaction, most definitely. I mean, what would it be like if one community college or certain classes on a community college campus decided, hey, let's go see what this other campus is doing, and let's sit in on some of their classes. If we build relationships on top of what we're learning in class, that'll take us a whole lot further.
Those are great comments and great suggestions, Kevin. So let me say this. I know that our hosts here at the League have a hard stop coming up, and I wish we could just spend the entire day talking to you, but I want to express to our colleagues out there watching this Zoom the importance of having student voices, student stories at the table. You are just a small slice of how many stories are out there and how important it is to hear it, because as we think about how we organize, how we think about policy, how we think about practice, your voice needs to inform how we go about our work. So I encourage every college leader out there to invite students to hear their stories as we think about the way forward. So in normal times, you would hear a huge round of applause right now, but I want to thank you all for being here, for sharing your stories. I wish we had more time. My apologies that we don't. And I want to thank you all for the incredible work that you do. I look forward to hearing about all of your success. And thank you for taking the time to be with us. And to everybody who's listening in, I want to thank you for giving me the time to share these stories with you, to share the call to action with you, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. I want to give a special thank you to the Chancellor's Office team, who works incredibly hard to support all of you. They are a small team, but they are a mighty team, and they're a committed team. So thank you all for this opportunity. And with that, I will turn it back over to Pam Luster.
Thank you so much to you, Chancellor Oakley, and to Felicia, Sarah, Kevin, and Catherine. I don't know that we could get a better set of advice today. What I heard was building relationships, getting out of our comfort zones, diversifying our faculty and staff, and being intentional and clear when we communicate the opportunities that are at our colleges. And so thank you so much for your words. And to Chancellor Oakley, your continued clarion call to the work that we do at our community colleges is inspiring. Continue to push us, continue to inspire us. Your unwavering advocacy is palpable, and we are right behind you, ready to take on these issues. So thank you so much, Chancellor Oakley, and thank you so much to our students. That was just really, really remarkable. We are going to shift into a spotlight session, and with the California Student Aid Commission providing an update on the Cal Grant modernization efforts. from Executive Director and recent guest of Equity Chat, Marlene Garcia, and Division Chief of Policy Research and Data, Patrick Perry. We're going to ask you to grab a quick bite to eat and begin in 5 minutes. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Greetings, CCLC. 30 years. Well, I've had 8 years as a trustee, and I can't imagine what I would be able to do without CCLC. We at the Veterans Caucus really appreciate the efforts of Larry Galizio and the whole team, and what a team you are. So congratulations on 30 years and another 30. We will probably still have some of the Zoom type of meetings, but I'm sure it's going to go back to real live meetings so we can see each other in person again. Okay, take care. Happy birthday.
Welcome back, everyone. We know that was a quick break, but we hope you're back and ready to go because we have a wonderful session here. Welcome to our spotlight session with California Student Aid Commission Executive Director Marlene Garcia and Division Chief of Policy, Research and Data, Patrick Perry. They will be sharing the advancement of the Cal Grant reforms. Welcome, Marlene and Patrick, to our convention.
Thank you, Dr. Lester, and thank you everyone for inviting us to join you today for this year's 2020 Virtual Community College League Annual Convention. I've enjoyed many of your conventions in the past and am pleased to be with you even if it is virtual. Thank you for inviting Patrick Perry and me to speak with you today about how we can increase the community college financial aid uptake. We really appreciate the strong relationship that we have between the California Student Aid Commission and the community colleges. We have worked closely with you on Cal Grant reform and advocating for greater investments in basic needs aid. Our commitment is to be proactive in serving the lowest income and most vulnerable students in the state. As you well know, the community colleges serve a disproportionate share of these students. We know from Sears survey data and other data, these students need additional support for basic needs to persist and succeed in college. During the pandemic alone, our surveys show that 7 in 10 students have lost some or all of their income. The Cal Grant B Access Award covers basic needs for community college students. However, it is such a competitive program that only 1 in 5 eligible students actually receive an award from the competitive program. Moreover, the size of the award, this year it's $1,656, has been virtually stagnant for the past 20 years. The original Cal Grant B Access Award was $900. If it had kept pace with inflation, the award today would be close to $7,000. The exception to this, of course, is the Cal Grant students with dependents, and they get an award of $6,000, but this is just a small subset of all the students within community colleges who get this supplemental award. As you know, the Cal Grant A program covers tuition fees for the students attending a 4-year public institution and automatically keeps pace with the growth of tuition and fees. However, over the years, what has happened is because of that automatic increase, the Cal Grant program has increased to $2 billion for students attending 4-year institutions and spends about $150 million for students attending the community colleges. This disparity has fueled our efforts to reform the Cal Grant program and to recognize the true cost of attendance, which is the same for students irrespective of where they attend college, and to more equitably distribute basic needs aid to those lowest income students and move away from just a tuition and fee-centric financial aid model. So we will be pursuing Cal Grant modernization in 2021, and we'll chat a bit about this later. The discussion today, though, is focused on 2 critical issues, and it's really important to have community college students truly benefit from the financial aid that's available to them. But we do need to address these 2 issues. One is we need to increase the number of community college students who submit a FAFSA or a CADA. And of those who do complete the FAFSA or CADA, we need to ensure that they actually get paid. This is going to be the focus of the presentation you're going to hear a moment from my colleague Patrick. We want to work with you so that we can together change these metrics so that more students will be applying for financial aid and more students will have money in their pockets to pay for those basic needs. So in a year like this, when we're already starting to see a decline in enrollments, additional financial aid resources can really make the difference between a student staying in college or deciding to drop out and work full time. We can't let this happen when we need all the talent we can muster in our state to help refuel California's economic recovery. So let me turn to our director, Patrick Perry, who will, the director of data analysis and research, who will walk us through the data because it all starts from the data and understanding where the gaps are so that in fact we can better identify proper interventions. So Patrick?
Okay, thanks, Marlene. And first of all, thanks to the League for having us here. We realize we can't replace a really good lunch buffet, but hopefully we can whet your appetite on some topics around financial aid. So what I wanted to start with is some acknowledgements here. As many of you may know, Marlene and I are alumni of the Chancellor's Office. And so we have a really good perspective on the needs of the students in the community college system, and also the institutions of the community college system and your special challenges in serving these students. What we wanted to acknowledge from a CSAC perspective are these things. Community college students are the largest and most needy of California students. We know this. They're usually the least informed about financial aid. That's a very diverse group, as Chancellor Oakley spoke about. There's a lot of diversity issues going on within the system by race, ethnicity, by age, first generation status, and also economic need. Community college students are very underserved when it comes to the broad spectrum of financial aid, but not just state financial aid, but federal financial aid, institutional aid, emergency aid. And we definitely acknowledge that the campuses, the community college campuses are under-resourced when it comes to managing all of this in the financial aid world. You know, there's not enough financial aid officers or counselors to help out with this. We would like to have a more high-touch model. We want better outreach, service, and support. And these are all things that we really want to work with you on moving forward. So what we're desiring here is both a research and a policy engagement with you as a system to address some of the following areas. And I'll expand upon these in this presentation. We want to improve both the FAFSA and the CADA completion rates. The CADA is the DREAM Act application. It's just like a FAFSA. We want to improve those completion rates for both incoming and existing community college students. We want to improve the rate of payment to community college students who have been offered a Cal Grant. So a lot of students in the community college system are offered a Cal Grant. Not all of them actually use that Cal Grant, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We want to talk about refining the messaging of financial aid advisement to community college students, especially as it pertains to Cal Grant eligibility and whether a student both accepts or defers their particular Cal Grant award. And then finally, there are proposals moving through the process. They've been working for the past year about Cal Grant modernization. They were scuttled with the budget process here last time, but we've been asked to take a look at them again for streamlining Cal Grant eligibility, coming up with various different Cal Grant programs, proposals, funding, and ultimately increasing the amount of state financial aid that goes specifically to community college students, because we definitely think there should be more state funds that are spent on community college students. Okay, for FAFSA and CADA completion rates, we run a competition every year. It's called Race to Submit. And we look at, by high school, the percentage of the senior graduating class that fills out either a FAFSA or a CADA. And that number last year approached 60% of the graduating high school class of 2020 filling out a FAFSA or a CADA. And that number has been on the rise. We've been doing a great job with this. And in fact, last year, California was one of only 2 states nationally that had an increase in its percentage of high school graduating class filling out a FAFSA. So that's good news. We run CalSOAP programs regionally, but the focus for the outreach done at the CalSOAP programs is primarily on K-12 students. And that's actually a shortcoming we want to work with you on. We really think we need to get in and partner with you as a system to develop an equivalent type of outreach program, system, events, to target students that are already in higher ed and not just say, okay, we're going to do all this outreach to K-12 students, and then after that, it's somebody else's problem. That's not the case. We certainly need to work with you on getting community college students also to continue to fill out FAFSAs and CADAs, and Marlene's going to talk about how we're going to do that. Improving the paid rate of Cal Grants is something that is a real key performance metric for us. when I talked about, students who are awarded a Cal Grant, not all of them take it, there are differences in those populations. We looked at recent cohorts of students who were awarded a Cal Grant, but who ultimately did not use the Cal Grant, and found some of these pieces of data on that group. 30% of those students who were awarded a Cal Grant never attended any institution. So they got their letter, and we found them nowhere in higher ed, anywhere in California, nationally. And we're proposing that this is a summer melt group. They just didn't make it over to higher ed. 8% of students attended out of state, which was a perfectly viable reason not to use your Cal Grant. You went out of state. 5% of students went to a community college, but were ineligible due to income limits for Cal Grant B. So essentially they would have received a Cal Grant A, but they didn't go to CSU or UC to cash that in. They went to a community college, and then they became eligible in the Cal Grant B pool. And then finally, the biggest chunk here of students who received a Cal Grant but didn't use it, they actually went to college. We find them as having enrolled in college. And of that pool, 4 out of 5 of them went to a community college. Some are in CSU, a few others in UC in the privates, but the bulk of the students who got a Cal Grant, didn't use it, and went to college are at a community college. And so that's something that we're really trying to dig into. The Cal Grant paid rates by segment, you can see here below. UC has an 87% paid rate, CSU's is 81, private nonprofits are 76, even private for colleges have a 62% paid rate. Paid rate for Cal Grants at community colleges is 51%. So there's a lot of students here who are getting a Cal Grant and not using it at community colleges. We're trying to get to the heart of the reasons of why that is. And so we have commissioned a study with both the Chancellor's Office, the RP Group, and the Ed Insights Center at CSU Sacramento to look at both the summer melt group and also the awarded but not paid students in both community colleges and in CSU. This is going to be a survey that is about to be sent out here in December to these students who were awarded but didn't use them. And we're going to ask them, why didn't you use a Cal Grant? A lot of this we surmise is due to what we call verification melt. They were asked to verify their information to finish the FAFSA process, and they didn't get through that process. Some of them may have chosen to defer their Cal Grant, and we want to know how they came to that conclusion. Some of them just didn't know what a Cal Grant was. Some of them didn't meet satisfactory academic progress. They didn't take enough units at the community college. And then there's some who actually potentially went to multiple community colleges and did have enough units, but it wasn't coordinated between the two institutions for them to actually receive their Cal Grant. So we're trying to get to the heart of what these are and how big of a problem these are so that we can get to interventions for that. What are the best interventions for summer melt and elective non-acceptance of Cal Grant? How do we get students to get through the verification process? And if there is advising of students to delay taking their Cal Grant, is that actually the best tactic for student success? Of those students who are enrolled in community college who didn't take their Cal Grant, most of them are gone after 1 semester. And so if taking a Cal Grant early might have improved their persistence or retention, we may want them to take their Cal Grants early, and after they transfer at a later date, when they run into eligibility length problems, we deal with that in a separate policy intervention. We do a lot of research on basic needs, and certainly these are big issues in your system, as Chancellor Oakley spoke about. We recently, in spring, did a COVID-19 student survey. This was a very large survey we did statewide. 70% of students reported a loss of income. That's huge. We measured students' levels of anxiety about their ability to meet their basic skills needs. Those doubled and tripled between the pre-COVID and a post-COVID environment. One interesting finding is that when we asked students where they are now planning on attending college now that COVID had hit and a lot of income was lost. Almost all strata of student responses said, I'm thinking more about going to a California community college as a result. And, you know, we waited until fall to see what was going to actually happen, and it didn't actually play out in reality. What it seemed like is a lot of students said, I'm going to shift to community college. And then a lot of them basically did not go at all anywhere, which is a really dangerous thing. We see these numbers in the FAFSA and CADIS submissions. They're down for first-time students. They're down for lower income students. This is something we're seeing not only in the state, but nationally. And your enrollments are down. And this is not a good long-term situation, both for the students who are going to be left out. Are they ever going to come back? And obviously for your own fiscal situation. We looked at the survey responses by a student's EFC, basically their income levels. Lower EFC students certainly have a far greater level of concern now over their finances and their own family's financial hardship. Higher EFC students have a greater concern about the academic quality or their perceived level of interaction now that they're remote and online, concern about online course taking, and their ability to take full loads of courses. That all came from the COVID-19 student survey, and we're out on the street with another one right now. The Sears survey, which was done a full year ago, we've recently done some research spotlighting credit card debt, and that as a way that students are turning to pay for their financial needs. 60% of students have at least one credit card. 3/4 of those students use that as their sole ability to pay for education and basic needs. 61% of those are carrying over a balance. And when we got the numbers back on what kind of balances these students are carrying over, we were a bit shocked. The average monthly balance carryover for a student was $4,300 a month. If you're an older student over age 25, it was $6,800. If you have a dependent in your house, the average credit card balance was $7,100. And if you're a student who identified as someone as not having a consistent place to sleep, like either homeless or couch surfing, your credit card balance was almost $8,000 a month. When you think about that, as far as they're charging 20% interest on these, what kind of debt is being racked up? 25% of the students who are carrying a credit card balance did not report using a student loan or any other type of funding to pay for college. So it's a serious disconnect there. Obviously, they could be, you know, this is a situation where they would be better off using a much cheaper interest rate on a student loan, but even other sources of financial aid they're not using. They're putting everything on a credit card, which is not good. We have a focus on improving CalFresh eligibility. And Marlene's going to talk here quickly about the CalFresh work group that we are currently convening.
Thank you, Patrick. So we are about to have our second work group meeting, and what we're really trying to do is figure out how we can better leverage these resources to support students' basic needs for food. And the way it works out is if a student were to be determined eligible for CalFresh, the full amount, that would add $2,500 to their annual aid to cover basic needs, which is significant when you consider it's even larger than the Cal Grant B Access Award right now. So we're hoping to come forward with a set of policy actions that will roll out in 2021, some short-term and some long-term, but the key priority is how do we simplify the system for college students, which we know was initially designed to keep college students out. So we're trying to really design for the student and figure out how to streamline that process, and are working with a lot of community college partners on this effort.
Yeah, we are also engaged with the California Policy Lab on pre-identifying likely CalFresh eligible students based upon the data that they provide in their FAFSA. And if we can successfully predict who is CalFresh eligible from that data, we would love to build some type of systems integration between us and the Department of Social Services to make that a more automated process instead of the very manual process now that it takes for a student to get on CalFresh. Improving award packages. So over 500,000 community college students get a Promise Grant, but they don't get a Pell. And most students who are eligible for Promise Grants should be eligible for Pell, not all, but this is a number we're also going to begin looking at from a key performance indicator standpoint. Students who should get students who are getting a Promise Grant who are not getting a Pell Grant, that 519,000, we really want to work with you to try and move that number over into the yes column, because more than likely they're also going to be getting a Cal Grant too. And this is the whole package, right? They need to be getting, not only the tuition and fees from the Promise, the state aid, the full boat Pell. That way they have a good chance of getting through without incurring some of the other types of debt. So we're going to be working with you to try and get more students on Pell and thus on Cal Grant. Finally, I'm going to let Marlene talk about this, some of the strategies to improve completion to get students to fill out the FAFSA.
Thank you, Patrick. So we are really developing a new infrastructure to bring Cash for College workshops to the students. And we've been working with the community colleges and key partners because we want to tailor these workshops for students who are already enrolled in the community colleges. So we're going to be establishing about 5 or so Cash for College workshops in the next several months. And we're working with our community college partners to drive student participation to these workshops. We'll handle the workshop, provide the trainers, and community colleges will urge students to attend. We hope by doing this, we get more students to understand by completing the FAFSA or the CADA, but particularly the FAFSA, it's the gateway to all financial aid opportunities. And for CADA, of course, it's one of the only financial aid opportunities available to undocumented students. So it's really, really critical that they understand that they can still apply for the FAFSA, get Cal Grants, but most importantly, get Pell Grants, the federal aid, which is about $6,000. So we are reaching out to you and hope to send out communications through the Chancellor's office, through the League, to ensure that we're working with all our community college partners. Great.
Finally, one last parting slide here on Cal Grant modernization. So there is a Cal Grant modernization report that was submitted and made public in March. It assumed a lot of new funding, which unfortunately didn't happen because of COVID in the state budget. But there were a lot of good things that were in that particular modernization proposal, including a separate Cal Grant specifically for community college students. We've been asked to remodel this proposal, assuming that there is no new funding. Which is unfortunate, but it's what we've been asked by the legislature. So there's still a lot of good things in the proposal. Simplification of eligibility, making it an entitlement, expanding the pool of recipients, and then ultimately we know we need to get to increasing the amount of state financial aid that is provided to community college students. Okay, so that wraps it up. We certainly look forward to partnering with you on all of these things and collaborating with you in moving forward with Cal Grant modernization. Thanks for having us here. Any parting words, Marlene?
No, thank you for having us here.
Yep.
Thank you so much, both to Patrick and Marlene. This is such a critical issue for our students, and our colleges are doing everything we can to be intrusive and help our students get to these. I love that idea about the link to CalFresh. That would just be spectacular if we could work something out like that. So thank you so much. We have many outstanding sessions planned this afternoon, starting at 12:30 and 1:30. Caucus sessions are at 2:30 and 3:45. During breaks, you'll have an opportunity to attend corporate partner mini sessions and get your questions answered. Session Zoom links and passwords are available in the event app and will be emailed out daily. All sessions will be recorded and released after convention concludes. Please complete your session and convention evaluations available in the app. We encourage you to use your web browser version of our event app and keep it open during the day so you can get those great updates. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and this session is now adjourned. Have a great day, everyone.